Starting on September 4, 2026, Google plans to officially retire its classic Google Assistant on mobile devices and replace it with the AI-driven Gemini.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're unpacking one of the absolute biggest, most disruptive changes to our everyday smartphone routines that we've seen in years. That familiar voice that's been helping us navigate our days, well, it's officially stepping aside. We're looking at a total takeover by Google's generative AI, Gemini. And we need to get right to it because this isn't some distant theoretical future. It's not a leaked rumor either. September 4th, 2026. That is the exact official date Google says it will begin permanently removing the classic Google Assistant from eligible mobile devices. This rollout is going to happen in the weeks immediately following that date. So yeah, the clock is officially ticking on a system that hundreds of millions of us use literally every single day. So that brings us to the central driving question of this whole explainer. Is Gemini actually ready to replace an assistant that so many millions of people depend on? I mean, the stakes here are incredibly high. Google is basically swapping out a predictable, decade-old habit for a generative AI system that, well, is inherently unpredictable by nature. The real question isn't why they're doing it, but whether it's actually going to work when you need it most.
Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the end of Google Assistant and what is actually disappearing.
The impact of this transition is honestly widespread. We're talking about losing Classic Assistant on eligible Android phones and tablets, compatible Wear OS watches, your connected headphones and earbuds, and even your Android Auto experience when you're connected through your phone. Now, sure, certain smart displays, speakers, and TVs will keep the old Assistant for now, but our immediate everyday mobile ecosystem, it's fundamentally changing. And you know what's really fascinating about this? The absolute finality of it. Once Gemini takes over in those weeks following September 4th, the classic Google Assistant is gone for good. There's no secret toggle switch in the settings to go back to the way things were. Gemini just becomes the new mandatory Google-provided assistant for all these devices. Which brings us to Section 2, commands versus AI agents. This is an entirely new paradigm. Think back to its launch in 2016. For years, Assistant relied on super rigid, simple commands, right? Set an alarm, call mom, check the weather. But generative AI has totally shattered those expectations. Today, we want our software to understand entire conversations and deep context. And tomorrow, we expect it to perform autonomous AI actions. It's a massive shift in what we expect our phones to actually do for us.
To really grasp where we're going, we need to look at what Google is actually building here, an AI agent. Let's break that down. This is a system that goes way beyond just answering trivia questions. It's designed to proactively plan, search, coordinate, use multiple services, and complete complex, multi-step tasks. Google isn't just making a smarter chatbot here, guys. They are trying to build an autonomous agent that sits as the operating layer between you and literally everything you do on your device.
This creates a massive shift in how we interact. We're moving from an old assistant that essentially just sat there waiting for orders, asking, "What do you want me to do?" to a new Gemini that actively tries to interpret your overarching goals by asking, "What are you trying to accomplish?" We are shifting from software that simply takes orders to an intelligence that actively tries to interpret our intentions. It's wild to think about.
But that brings up some real friction. Section 3, the reliability problem, predictability versus intelligence.
Let's ground this in something we all do, setting an alarm. When you're totally exhausted and you tell your phone to wake you up at 7 a.m., you just want the alarm set. You don't want a creative reinterpretation, and you definitely don't want to wake up to a 5-paragraph essay on the history of mornings, right? AI is absolutely incredible at generating sophisticated answers, but traditional assistants were useful precisely because they were so highly predictable. Combining generative flexibility with ironclad reliability, actually, that is way harder than it sounds.
And the crucial point here, which is constantly popping up in recent Google Assistant community discussions, is that regular users don't care about AI benchmark scores. They evaluate assistants by whether they actually work when they need them to. Users are already noticing broken routines. They're realizing this is a risky behavioral change, not just a simple app update. People know exactly what phrases and routines work for them, and now Google is asking us to relearn the interface entirely.
So why push so hard? Let's look at Section 4, Google's ecosystem advantage, the long-term prize. This interconnected ecosystem reveals Google's true, unmatched advantage. Unlike competitors who just have standalone chatbot apps, Google can feed Gemini unprecedented personal context. How?
by weaving it directly into the apps we already use every single day. Android, Chrome, Gmail, Workspace, Maps, Photos, Search, YouTube. Gemini doesn't need to be an app you remember to open. It becomes the intelligence that is already everywhere you look. And the scale of that integration is just mind-boggling. 900 million. That is the staggering number of monthly active users Gemini has already reached across more than 230 countries and 70 languages. Almost a billion people. Gemini is instantly becoming a universal interface for them, completely transforming how they search, work, and interact with technology. Which leads us to Section 5, the ultimate test of trust: intelligence versus security.
You see, if a traditional chatbot gives you a wrong or hallucinated answer, it's pretty harmless. You just roll your eyes and ignore it. But when an AI can actually take action on your behalf, a mistake literally becomes an action. If an AI agent misunderstands your context while managing your calendar or sending an email to your boss, the stakes are exponentially higher. This isn't just about intelligence anymore. It's about whether you trust the software not to make a complete mess of your life.
Just think about the sheer volume of access this AI needs to actually be useful as an agent. To do its job, Gemini needs communication permissions to send your messages, organizational access to tweak your appointments, control over your smart home devices, and privacy access to search your personal files. To make Gemini the ultimate assistant, you essentially have to hand over the keys to your most private, sensitive information. And all of this perfectly maps out what we can call the Google gamble. Step 1. Force this transition on September 4th. Step 2, push through and try to overcome the inevitable short-term friction and complaints about broken routines from users. Step 3, establish Gemini as the universal autonomous operating layer for the whole future of mobile computing. Google is basically betting everything that users will eventually accept the early unpredictability of Gemini in exchange for a highly capable, truly intelligent interface down the line. So, next time you look at your phone, remember that the impending September 4th date, it isn't the finish line. It is just the beginning. It's the start of a massive, live experiment taking place right in our pockets. Google is attempting to change the fundamental way millions of people interact with their devices, ripping off the Band-Aid to replace a decade-old habit with an entirely new behavioral paradigm. The technology is here, the data's set, and the old reliable assistant is fading away for good. But as this new, highly capable, yet potentially unpredictable AI takes the reins of your digital life, we gotta ask, do you trust Gemini enough to let it become the ultimate assistant on your phone?